Before university, I struggled with self-harm for about 4 years, and when I came to university, I was diagnosed with depression.
I felt so much better in myself, and then I didn't understand when I was going out with friends and when I was interacting with people why I just didn't feel happy at all.
I used to self-harm a lot, probably 3 times a week.
It was like something had possessed me in a way. I started eating normally, overeating, I didn't exercise, I was overeating, I didn't sleep.
People don't know you and you're surrounded by many people, it's like stressful, and then you've got all this new way of writing and learning.
Your bed is different. It means the walls around you are different. It means the people who are on the other side of the walls are different. It means your usual peer group that you've maybe grown up with are no longer there.
And being at university is a stressful experience. It's supposed to be. You're being tested. You're being expected to learn new stuff that you haven't been exposed to.
I think the fundamental problem is that we kind of live in a society that's not optimistic.
Most people come to university didn't expect that you have to do everything on your own. It requires a lot of independent work.
With the age, so some mental health issues arise in the late teens and early 20s.
Money problems become an issue, living with other people or not, and there are things like, I think social media in the end makes people more lonely.
Do you feel attacked because you know that it is a problem and people can't see that? Some situations have brought it out a bit more, made it a bit worse in some ways, because it doesn't have to be pushed away.
In year 9, I started to develop anorexia due to a boy bullying me, saying I was fat and worthless, and he used the word munter, which I later on engraved into myself. And it started off as like a small diet, and it just got dramatically worse, to where I was then diagnosed to an eating disorder service in York, which I attended weekly until I came over it, but that never happened because my mum died the day after that I'd had this meeting, quite suddenly in hospital. That shook things up, I'm sure you can imagine. Moving in was horrible, I hated it. I cried every night for a good week. I'm ringing my dad at like 3 in the morning, wanting to come home. Uni's not easy, don't get me wrong, it's never going to be easy, but I've got a great group of friends in my course, I've got good tutors. It's hard to explain, but I've overcome issues that I didn't think I could ever overcome because of the things that I've learned as a student.
Like self-harm's got more of a stigma around it rather than anxiety. Never felt like that before in my life, and I didn't know what it was. And I just wanted help, really. It was like the best thing that I did to stop. It makes you feel better short term, but never long term.
I had a bad sort of breakdown again, similar to that I'd had in university last year. Well, yeah, last year. But this time I sort of bit the bullet and went to see a doctor about it and got medication. I'm doing all right now, I think. We'll see, anyway.
No university is doing enough to tackle this. It isn't about particular university, it's across the board. One is, I think it's taken too long for universities in general to recognise there is a problem. There's a kind of stigma to this. You don't want to say that there is a substantial number of your students who are actually suffering with issues around mental health, depression, anxiety, etc. It just doesn't look good.
Part of the problem, I think, is that with cuts to the NHS, there are often fewer alternative sources of help for students to access, or they're becoming more difficult. It takes longer to get a doctor's appointment, for example, in a lot of places.
The things I hate about my job is that sometimes when I'm feeling particularly under pressure, from a number of directions, and then a student wants to talk to me and clearly is in need of some support and just someone to talk to, I want to do it, but there's this stress ball inside me that's telling me I don't need this. The actual identification of someone with mental illness is really important, so that we can say, okay, this is moving beyond what is part of our job remit here, and we should really kind of refer the student to someone who is trained to deal with this sort of stuff.
There are still some students, there's a stigma attached to being labelled as such, and so don't go for help.
Opposite number in English broke his leg last year. Nobody kind of thought he was a bit of an idiot for breaking his leg. But, you know, if he'd have broken down with some sort of emotional or mental illness, there would have been a lot more questions being asked about his suitability for the job.
In particular, young men often find it very difficult to admit that they're having mental health difficulties. Male students are more reluctant to tell us, and it tends to be more serious by the time that we do know about it.
Society in general has to be much more optimistic, and I think they have to value young people more.
I did a work experience in 2015 on a male's inpatient mental health ward, and it just made me realise that the problem was a lot bigger than I expected, and that the counsellors were making a massive difference to people's lives rather than just giving them medicine and sending them on.
This is a little booklet that the Wellbeing Service provides, and we hand those out.
We have puppy room, so we plan it to bring a few dogs into the uni so students can come in and play with them and relax for a bit.
I'm also in the process of talking to a local charity about how whether we might be able to get them in to run some sessions in the new year.
And we also have the support group, which is quite new.
I'm also working on putting together material that we can use in induction at the beginning of next year that will both give students some tips on how to look after their own mental health, to recognise when there are issues.
Look for advice and look for support, because you're worth to be cared of.
I can't stress enough just how important it is for students to acknowledge it. That the worst thing they can do is just bury their head in the sand and hope it goes away.
The first step is just come in and talk, and we can do something.
I think 100% like forgetting about your pride and just going and coming out with it, and remembering that it's not actually got as much as a stigma as it used to do.
That's the thing I would say. If you're thinking, if you're very distressed, if things are getting really hard, if you're thinking about leaving, please come and talk to us, because very often there are ways to help.
Go to your GP and talk about it, because it's never as scary as you think it's gonna be. So just go.